From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London.
My name's Maxwell, Jim Maxwell. I'm in Sydney. I'm not in India, but you'll hear more about the other Maxwell soon.
I'm Prakash Wakankar. I'm in Pune.
Good to have you both. We are going to get to Glenn Maxwell in a bit because that was surely the greatest ODI innings of all time. Where were you when Glenn Maxwell smashed a World Cup double hundred with his body cramping up to haul Australia into a semi-final from a score of 91 for 7? We are also going to ask the ICC this week what cricket's inclusion in the Olympics may mean for Afghanistan. But first, the most successful captain in the history of cricket has retired. 7-time World Cup winner for Australia, Commonwealth Games gold medalist and inspirational leader Meg Lanning has chosen to end her 13-year international career at the age of 31. Now, she's the second highest run scorer in women's T20 internationals, and her last international match was the T20 World Cup final in February when she led Australia to victory over South Africa, her 5th World Cup win as captain. Now, she took a couple of breaks from the game recently, first a 6-month mental health break after the Commonwealth Games, then she missed the Ashes against England for medical reasons. And Jim, she actually got quite emotional when she was speaking about her family and the support she's had from her parents in particular. I mean, just how big a loss will she be for this Australian team and just what she's done for the game of cricket?
It's a loss, but Australia have got plenty of depth. It's disappointing that someone who's 31 and still sort of at the peak of her powers has decided to retire. It's interesting that she's going to continue to play domestic cricket. That surprises me. I would have thought if she feels a bit in between about playing for her country, where's the motivation to play at the next level? But anyway, that's what she's saying at this stage. She's been coming and going a bit in recent years, and Australia's record has still been very strong. Their cricket's been powerful without her, but certainly she's a loss because she's been one of the statuesque players in the game that's transported Australia from pretty good to sheer brilliant with 80% success. So she's going to be a big loss, but Australia's resilient enough to move on.
Prakash, how would you sum up her career?
Well, I mean, like Jim said, it's always remarkable when sportspersons at ages that generally would be considered fairly young decide to call it quits. But they know best, I guess. She's been inspirational for many, many, many young girls around the world. I know that in India, we saw her in the WPL last season, the inaugural one, captaining the Delhi Capitals. Yeah, she came out at the losing end there. But if she's going to play franchise cricket in Australia, I do hope that she will consider playing in the WPL, because I know loads and loads of young girls who would love to see her. And like Shikha Pandey for Delhi Capitals said, she was the reason, or one of the reasons, that Shikha took up the game. So good luck to her and best wishes.
Yeah, I hope it gives her the balance in life, really, that she needs. And one thing that you often heard about Meg Lanning was that she's quite a homebody, and perhaps just the toll of the international travel for so many years. By playing domestic cricket, she can still get her cricket, but have maybe a little more settled time at home, maybe. She did wear the game quite seriously for quite a long time. And I think over time I remember responding to player feedback at one point that her teammates just wanted to simply see more of her as captain, for her just to hang out with them a little bit more. And I think she did learn to lighten the load to a degree. And we heard from her at the WPL on Stumped, Prakash, when she was playing for Delhi earlier this year. And I remember just thinking actually how relaxed she sounded out there playing domestically. So I think it's wonderful for the game that she will still be playing in that role. We will still see her. She will keep inspiring generations as she has been doing. And just on her cricket, this tweet from Ian Bishop particularly stood out for me because I've commentated with Bish on numerous Women's World Cups. And when he first started coming into the women's game on that World Cup basis, he was really struck by Meg Lanning. And he tweeted to say that there are a handful of batters in the game that made me stop what I was doing just to watch them play. Meg Lanning was one. He said, "My fondness, appreciation and love for the women's game grew exponentially because of her artful batting and leadership." So some wonderful words from Ian Bishop. Sums things up pretty neatly. Good luck to Meg Lanning for whatever is coming next, alongside her domestic cricket, of course. Now, it has been quite a momentous month for the World Game. First of all, cricket being selected as an Olympic sport for the Los Angeles Games in 2028, whilst at the same time, of course, the drama of the Men's ODI World Cup gathering pace. Now, we've long awaited the chance to speak to the International Cricket Council Chief Executive Geoff Allardyce on Stumped this year. And so we talked to him here about cricket becoming an Olympic sport and whether that could put pressure on the ICC's stance on Afghanistan's women's cricketers who fled the country in the wake of the Taliban takeover in August 2021. The women wrote to the ICC in December last year, making their whereabouts known and asking if the ICC could support them in any way, given that they're now refugees. Despite being advised their situation would be discussed at subsequent board meetings, the women heard nothing further, whilst the Afghanistan Cricket Board, now only supporting the men's team, remains fully backed by the ICC. So you'll hear about that shortly, but I began by asking Geoff Allardyce just how significant it is for cricket to be included at the LA Games.
I think it's a very, very big moment. When we got the news in October in Mumbai at the IOC session, it was... I think it's something that's been a key part of our strategy for a number of years now, and I think judging by the positive reaction of so many of our member countries, it's good news for most of them.
And is it definitely the T20 format that's been approved?
Yes, that's right. I mean, we talked about men's and women's T20 events with the Los Angeles 28 organisers, and there's still a bit of work to do on venue, competition format, qualification process over the next 12 months, a bit over 12 months. So, but very, very pleased with the result and the interactions with both LA 28 and the IOC during the process, the evaluation process, and it was a really, really big moment for us in Mumbai a few weeks ago to hear the news confirmed at the IOC session.
Can you give us a bit of an update, Geoff, on where the ICC stands as regards the Afghanistan women who had to flee the country in the wake of the Taliban takeover, because they were contracted cricketers to the ACB. I know that they wrote to you in December of last year, making it known who they were and where it were. An Afghanistan working group has been set up ever since the Taliban took over as well. Where do things lie insofar as what the ICC can do to support those women who are now outside of their country's board?
Well, I think it's important to state what the ICC's remit and its number one objective in its constitution is to support the promotion of cricket in conjunction with its members. And our member in Afghanistan is the Afghanistan Cricket Board. When they became an ICC member in 2001 as an affiliate and were awarded full membership in 2017. And at that time, they didn't have a women's cricket program, but as part of that submission for full membership, they did commit to developing a women's cricket program, and they did. They were in the progress of doing that through to 2021, as you said. And in 2021, the regime in the country changed and have brought in laws that prohibit women from playing sport in the country. And I think that, whilst we have spoken with the Afghanistan Cricket Board, and, their position is that they have to operate within the laws of the country, and the country is set and the rules are set by the government. And really that, and the question for the ICC board is, do we support our member in that, in their ability to promote cricket within the rules set by the government of the country? And the view is yes.
When a group of women write to their Games Global governing body asking for some assistance or some answers, one of the questions I know that they asked was what happened to the money that was paid to the ACB as part of their full member funding. And can you confirm actually for us that the Afghanistan Cricket Board still receives its full member test status funding, which they would have done otherwise, because of course they no longer have a women's team to fund, which would have been part of the remit ordinarily? Do they still receiving their full funding?
Yes, they're as I said, they're supported as a full member of the ICC.
So what has happened to the funds which would have otherwise been paid to those contracted women's cricketers?
The funds get paid from the ICC to all of our members. There's an amount agreed, and then how those members distribute those funds and the use of that money is very much up to those members. We don't, with any of our members, have a check and balance over where how that money is distributed and whether it goes to certain contracts or other contracts, and we don't stipulate how that needs to be managed. So, you're aware of the correspondence that was sent to me. You're probably aware of my answer too. So it is something that is in the hands of the Afghanistan Cricket Board. And as I go back to my first point, we did say that supporting Afghanistan cricket is done through our member, and we've been following the wishes of our member all the way through.
Is there an argument to say that on a humanitarian level, the ICC could have or could still yet put some sort of development funding together for a group of women who have made themselves known to you, that they are exiled from their country, they were contracted members? I mean, it is an unprecedented situation, an extraordinary situation, which ordinarily you'd think would require an unprecedented response. And the ACB already operates under an extraordinary dispensation, if you like, to continue as a test-playing nation whilst not fulfilling its test-playing criteria.
No, I mean, as I've said, we don't have direct relations with players from any teams without the endorsement of their member, with our member in that territory. And
it comes back to my point, Jeff, of it being an extraordinary circumstance. It's never happened in this way before. Has there ever been any consideration to come up with an extraordinary solution?
I'm here to represent the position of the ICC board, and I've explained that to you. And in terms of what might happen in the future, or whenever the board takes a different position, I'll be in a position to communicate that.
Would the same situation be the case if it was the other way around and it was a men's team that had been exiled from a country, do you imagine?
I would imagine it is, yes. I mean, this is the ICC's remit, is that we don't start engaging with players from any particular country if there was, without the blessing of the board in that territory.
Well, that was the ICC Chief Executive, Jeff Allardyce, speaking to me. He, of course, delivers the message of the ICC board, which is made up largely of the chairs of the individual test-playing nations. So perhaps we need to get some of those individual chairs on stumped as well to quiz them on the various stances being taken. But as regards Afghanistan, the fact remains that there's been no attempt to reach out to the women on a human or humanitarian level, even to ascertain their circumstances. And it's clear that, well, it doesn't seem that is going to change. And for me, Jim and Prakash, I found that as a cricket lover to be the most dispiriting and disheartening thing of all. What did you make, Prakash, if I come to you first, about what you heard from Jeff there?
Well, I mean, you do, at one level, you sympathize with the CEO because he's obviously got to say what he said. I don't think he has a choice in that matter. That being said, I think there are solutions. Where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, we've seen in the Olympics itself, teams that country associations or bodies being banned, sort of being allowed to compete under the Olympic flag or the Olympic banner. Maybe there's a case to explore something of that nature. From a humanitarian perspective, I think, look, Jonathan Trott, the coach, hasn't been to Afghanistan yet. So there's no reason why a women's group who are earlier contracted couldn't play their cricket outside Afghanistan and still represent the country. This Afghanistan men's team for many years was based out of Dehradun in India. So I think if there's an intent and there's a will, rather than try and fight a losing battle, these could be options to look at. But that being said, cricket and politics, who better than the Indian subcontinent and an Indian to talk about it? I mean, what will happen in the Champions Trophy 2025? We'll wait and watch. But the reality is governments are governments. Sporting bodies are subservient or subordinate to them. And they have to, I guess, ultimately follow the government, whether it's elected or otherwise.
I spoke to one of the women players just the other day, Firuza Afghan, who is in Melbourne, and she says that they've all been really excited by the men's performances at the World Cup, but at the same time, it heightens their own sadness at their own circumstances. And yeah, they really have just a small number of individuals to thank for their safe passage to Australia, who initially bought them playing equipment to get them involved in local clubs. And that's sort of where they're at now. A number of them are still playing at local club level, a couple of them in the Victoria Premier League. But it's the funding and the cost, and can they actually keep their cricket going? Firuza, for example, has a job in a supermarket to try and pay her own way. But some money's also needed by her mum and her aunt and her siblings as well. So things aren't straightforward for them. I don't know whether that's a question for the cricket authorities in Australia, where they are, to find a development fund or some sort of assistance for them. But they have been feeling forgotten by the international cricket community. And I keep being told that the ICC takes the stance that a board and its players shouldn't be penalised due to the actions of its governments. And yet, by doing nothing, it's as if the ICC are standing by why the women are penalised by the actions of their governments. And it's difficult to escape that fact. More on the Men's Cricket World Cup then, and Australia's Glenn Maxwell, no relation, Jim, single-handedly pulling off one of the greatest, if not the greatest, run chases in one-day cricket history. Against Afghanistan, the Aussies had been set a target of 292 when they collapsed to 91 for 7. And that was a story in itself, with Afghanistan poised to beat Australia seemingly for the very first time. But then Glenn Maxwell did what Glenn Maxwell does best, and in a partnership with Pat Cummins, he smashed his way to 201 not out off just 128 balls to win the game practically on one leg, because the humidity led to his body seizing up with cramps, and it was jaw-dropping to watch. Jim, even the great Sachin Tendulkar tweeted that this has been the best ODI knock I've seen in my life. Well, I think it's probably the best we've seen in any of our lives. I mean, you've been watching cricket longer than I have. Is your assessment of best ever the right assessment in your book?
Well, it's certainly up there. It was an extraordinarily, just amazing innings for a bloke who had cramp and was struggling. The interesting thing about it is it shows, even if you trace this back to Tendulkar, Lara, Bradman, how batsmen who are so good at their craft mesmerise bowlers. Because having dropped him at least once, if not twice, they kept bowling at him. I mean, the last thing you want to do is bowl at Maxwell because he can't move. So, they didn't think about that much because they probably thought, oh, you'll make another mistake. You'll make another mistake. Well, the only mistake he made was hitting sixes and catches into the crowd. But it was amazing. I've never seen hand-eye coordination from a bloke who was clearly wounded like that, and for him to be able to pull it off in the end, not just have a cameo, was extraordinary. So well done to him. And if we keep watching 50-over cricket and seeing the occasional innings, we've seen a few of them in this series. You got to say the 50-over game's going to be around for a bit longer.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking, Prakash, that, he's just given the ODI format single-handedly the biggest shot in the arm it could have asked for. You tweeted at the time that he was superhuman.
Well, I mean, you know how we Indians think. We think often in Bollywood terms or mythology terms, and that's where you see superhumans. And realistically, I mean, you think about it, he did everything that a superstar of Hindi film hero would do. Or if you look at mythology with 6 hands and 4 heads and what have you, it seemed like he had a bat in all 6 of his hands, and he could just sort of wing it and send the ball into the stands. It was an outstanding innings. I wish that there was a recording of Kapil Dev's 175 at Tunbridge Wells, because I'm told by those who've seen it that in the context of the game at that time, that may have been very similar. But take nothing away from Glenn Maxwell. What a knock. Coming as it did a day after Fakhar Zaman's, I think it's provided just the right fillip as we head to the business end.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the fact it was, with the World Cup semi-final on the line from that position of 91 for 7, and that feat of physical effort with the pain of the cramps, the theatre of the preceding days as well, the fact he fell off that golf cart and had been out under concussion protocol.
I was about to say that maybe people are going to try and fall off a golf cart just before a big game.
Exactly. And then, of course, that fairy tale finish, getting over the finish line with a 6, which also took him past the double century mark. I mean, it was utter fairy tale. You're quite right, almost superhuman stuff. Now, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stump. So my thanks to Jim Maxwell and to Prakash Wakankar. Great to have you with us, Prakash. And we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.